Hey everyone! So today, we're going to talk about a really powerful shift in education. This idea of moving away from just memorizing a bunch of facts and toward building a deep, real, lasting understanding. It's all about teaching for the big ideas. So let's dive in.
So let's just kick things off with a really important question, not just for teachers, but for anyone who's interested in learning. Is the goal for students to just, recall information? Or is it to give them the mental tools they need to analyze, connect, and even create? That right there, that's the exact problem that concept-based learning is designed to solve. Okay, this slide just lays it out so perfectly. On the left, you've got the traditional approach. We learn about the French Revolution. The names, the dates, the key events. But look at the right side. That's the concept-based approach. We're learning through the French Revolution, using it as a case study to understand these huge universal concepts like revolution, conflict, and power. The focus totally shifts from just what happened to why it happened and why it still matters today.
All right, to really get our heads around this whole idea, we need to be speaking the same language. So what we're going to do is build the entire structure of knowledge, literally layer by layer, starting with the smallest little pieces of information and going all the way up to these powerful abstract ideas.
So at the very bottom, the foundation of everything, you've got facts. A fact is something like, the Bastille was stormed on July 14, 1789. It's specific, it's concrete, you can verify it. But here's the catch. Facts are locked in time. They don't transfer. That date only applies to that one event. It's totally essential information, but it's really just the starting point. Okay, moving up a level, we get to topics. We take all those individual facts and we organize them into a topic. So our fact about the Bastille fits neatly into the topic of the French Revolution. A topic is kind of like a container. It holds all the related facts and gives them context. But just like facts, topics are still stuck in that specific context. Knowing all about the French Revolution doesn't automatically help you understand the American Revolution.
All right. Now this is where the real magic happens. We pull out concepts from these topics. A concept is a mental construct, an idea like revolution or power or inequality. Notice how these are totally different. They're timeless, they're universal, they're abstract, they are not locked to any one time or place. These are the powerful, transferable ideas that let us see patterns across totally different topics and situations.
And then we get to the very top, the pinnacle. This is where we connect these concepts to form what we call generalizations or big ideas. This is the highest level of understanding. So, for example, significant inequality can fuel violent revolution. See what we did there? We just linked the concepts of inequality and revolution. This is an enduring understanding. It's a big idea that applies to France in 1789, sure, but it also applies to countless other situations all throughout human history. So there you have it. This is the whole structure. We're moving from those very specific, locked-in time facts, which we group into topics, then we pull out these abstract concepts and we synthesize them into these powerful, transferable generalizations. That is the intellectual journey we want our students to take. Okay, so we get the what, we understand the theory, but the big question is, how do we actually do it? I mean, how do you design a curriculum that actually gets students to those big ideas? Well, let's take a look at the blueprint.
The design process here is super intentional, and honestly, it kind of flips traditional planning on its head. Instead of starting with a giant list of facts you have to cover, you actually start with the end in mind. You ask, what are the big ideas students absolutely need to understand? You define those first, and only then do you work backward to pick the right topics and facts that will best get them there.
Now that second step on the list, the conceptual lens, this is absolutely critical. The conceptual lens is the main concept you use to focus the entire unit. So for a history unit, maybe your lens is conflict. For a science unit, it might be systems. This lens makes sure that every single piece of content, every single activity is all driving students toward that deeper conceptual understanding. It's the glue that holds it all together.
To make learning goals that really stick, we have to think in 3 dimensions. It's just not enough to know things anymore. Real learning happens when you integrate knowledge, understanding, and skills.
It really breaks down like this. You've got conceptual understanding, that's the big idea, the why. Then you have knowledge, which is the factual content, the what. And finally, you have skills. These are the processes students need, the how. A really great learning objective weaves all 3 of these together. Students use their skills on the knowledge to arrive at that deep conceptual understanding.
And this really lays out the whole journey, right? It's a natural flow. We start with a core concept, we use factual knowledge and targeted skills to explore it, and it all builds toward the ultimate goal, being able to apply that understanding in brand new situations.
And look, this isn't just some new, trendy idea. As this quote points out, all higher-order knowledge, every single principle, every theory that's ever been developed, it's all fundamentally built on understanding concepts and how they relate to each other. Concepts are the true building blocks of intellect.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If we're not just testing for a bunch of memorized facts anymore, then what does assessment even look like? How can we be sure that this deep, conceptual learning has actually happened?
All right, let's get to the payoff, because this whole approach, it really demands a new way of thinking about assessment. We have to shift our focus from what students can remember to what they can actually do with their knowledge.
So we're still using different kinds of assessment, but their purpose gets a lot sharper. Diagnostic assessments check to see what conceptual knowledge students are coming in with. Formative assessments, things like questioning or exit tickets, they let us monitor that understanding as it's developing. And summative assessments, like big performance tasks, are designed specifically to see if students can apply their understanding to a complex, new problem.
So, what are we actually looking for? Well, it's not just about getting the right answers anymore. We're looking for real evidence of understanding. Can a student explain a big concept in their own words? Can they use factual evidence to support a generalization they've come up with? And maybe most importantly, can they take what they've learned and apply it to a situation they have never seen before? That is the true test of learning.
And really, that brings us to the core idea, the big takeaway from all of this. Concept-based learning isn't about covering more stuff or memorizing a longer list of facts. It's about a fundamental shift in our goal, moving from coverage to depth, from just knowing to truly understanding. It's about building a mind that can think, not just a memory that can recall.
You know, the ideas we've talked about today, they're built on some really amazing foundational work by educational pioneers like Lynn Erickson and Lois Lanning. Thank you so much for joining me today.